So we have appealed the decision to the Third Circuit Court in Philadelphia. Over 50 cities have followed Hazelton's law. In fact, the state of Arizona has used the Hazelton portion of our law, and is now law. They were sued as well, and they won in the Ninth Circuit Court. Third Circuit Court actually ruled against us, and we will not stop there. I have vowed from the very beginning that I'll take this case all the way to the Supreme Court, and that's what we're intending to do. I'm happy to be here. That's a little bit of my background. I can tell you it's been, my intention was never to elevate my political career, was never to get myself on Lou Dobbs' show. It was simply that I took an oath of office to protect and defend the people of my city, and that's what I'm going to do. And now that I'm here in Congress, I'll have a little bigger megaphone to voice my opinions. Thank you. Yeah.
We'll take a few more questions. I should just note in passing after that story, I'm less annoyed about GoPro being here. I'm more annoyed about the ACLU being this station downstairs.
To the Congressman, I'm just wondering where your governor stood on your issues.
Well, I can tell you, when I passed the ordinance, as I said, there was nothing like it in the country. We could not get one politician to even come near Hazleton, Pennsylvania, not the governor, not those who were running for office, and to tell you the truth, it was actually refreshing that nobody was coming there, because they were afraid to take a stand. They were afraid to, at the time, this was back in 2006, wasn't politically correct for anyone in office to take that open position. So I had very little support. It wasn't until, and I was never really standing alone, I didn't know it at the time. Although politicians would not come near me, I didn't realize there were millions of Americans standing with me. So I was quite comfortable in that position, but it wasn't until later on that many saw that it was safe to get in the water that they started coming around.
Congressman, congratulations. My dealings with a group called La Raza and their strong arm, the Brown Berets, have been very, very sour. I consider them a racist group, no different than the Nazis, the KKK, or the Black Panthers. How are they able to get $15 million of funding from Congress in the last 2 years? Now, first of all, did they get that funding, or was it squashed?
Well, I'm not certain. I'm not certain, but we can
Congressman, good?
It's for their housing.
Yeah.
What would happen is the Democrats, they even got funding when the Republicans were in charge, because they would let, on each appropriations subcommittee, the Democrats did their earmarks and the Republicans did theirs, or they had programs they wanted furnished. And the Democrats would fund it, and the Republicans wouldn't challenge them. We had a few votes in committee on funding La Raza. Of course, I always voted against giving them anything. And they would also put it in the conference reports, and most members, you didn't have time to read all of the conference reports, because they'd bring them up and late at night and say, all right, you got 4 hours, and huge staff. And La Raza got funding, but I agree with you, there should be zero funding for La Raza. But I would say this, now they pitch it like this: we want to help Hispanic veterans get what they're entitled to, so give us some money so we can help the veterans, or give us some money so we can help somebody get this type of education. But the ones in charge of the money, when the check is written, is La Raza. La Raza should not be federally funded at all.
Excuse me. Minuteman Project congratulates you for running for Congress. Here is a precious metal medallion. The value of that will only go up, so hang on to it, and congratulations.
One question I had is, for 235 years, the United States has been a country that has had a European culture, I guess you could say. It's been largely Europeans. and that's what sort of shaped its institutions and its way of life. The question I have is, sitting on the sidelines and viewing the lack of concern for the issue of the border, of assimilation, what have you, and having read an article that was in the Wall Street Journal the day after the November elections that said by 2050, European Americans will no longer be the majority in this country. I guess the question is it possible that we're not going to solve this issue and that the country could devolve into a society more akin to, say, South Africa, where you have a development separately of different ethnic groups? And I know this is a topic that people don't like to talk about, but there is a cultural component here, and I think it's a valid question, especially for somebody raising children, to sort of to begin to look ahead and see what sort of country they're going to live in the next 50, 100 years.
One of the books that we're handing out at our booth downstairs, the Youth for Western Civilization booth, is Samuel Huntington's Who Are We? Congressman Tancredo actually used that title as, I believe, the title of his radio show, correct? And there is a cultural component. One of the things Professor Huntington says, and Samuel Huntington is probably like the most distinguished academic this country's produced in the last 50 years, and it's pretty striking. And this is, New Deal Democrat, dean of Harvard Government Department, hardly a well-known breeding place for fanatical right-wingers. And when I was in grad school, I think I had him in 6 different courses. It's striking to me that his last book that he ever wrote was essentially a very pessimistic book, saying that the American ethos, the Declaration of Independence and liberal democracy and everything else, ultimately comes from a core culture. And once that core culture splits apart, you're not going to get anything else anyway. So I think there is a chance that, you will see that kind of fragmentation, and that's the kind of thing that we're, hopefully fighting to prevent.
Kevin, again, I want to say thanks to you and the Youth for Western Civilization for all you're doing. I would reiterate what I said at the beginning. We've got to stop now totally illegal immigration and significantly reduce legal immigration. If we do not do that, the United States, like much of Europe and most of the rest of the world, will drift towards more socialism, with the government doing more and more for people and having greater and greater control. I do not want to see that. We've got to make a stand. No illegal immigration, and significantly and greatly reduce legal immigration.
I have a sort of perennial question to ask for you and Ms. Buchanan. You both spoke on populism as sort of a solution to our problems, but the American people have overwhelmingly opposed the expansion of immigration. In fact, they've been in favor of restriction for the better part of for all of the past century. Yet, what we've seen is an explosive trend toward expansion due to business interests, due to unions. Well, unions came around to the issue. But what are the limits of populism? I mean, what can we expect? What could we do to maybe counter the business interests, things like that? I'm trying to tease out this issue because American people have opposed it for a long time. If politicians were just looking at the polls and trying to win votes, they would be against it. They would enforce it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've
if
been able
only
to,
it was pandering, we'd be okay.
Yeah, we've been able to do some small things. We've been able to knock down the big expansions like amnesty and some of the really outrageous things like the DREAM Act. But how can we actually control the issue? Even controlling illegal immigration, much less bringing down legal with populism.
Well, one of the more troubling things is the consensus that existed, not just among Republicans, but among Democrats, even during the Clinton administration, about the need to stop illegal immigration, greatly reduce legal immigration. The Jordan Commission, Barbara Jordan, who's a progressive icon, famously campaigned against illegal immigration and said, essentially it's theft from workers. One of the ironic things you see with this identity politics thing is how they name everything about Cesar Chavez now. Cesar Chavez was opposed to illegal immigration. He actually sent his guys in to fight illegal immigrants because he considered them scabs, because they were, threats to his ability to unionize. American unions were mostly against legal immigration up until very recently. So yeah, I mean, I think it's no exaggeration to say democracy has failed when it's come to this issue. I think if you had a straight one-issue vote on something like this, we would win every single time. It's ironic that this is seen as such a controversial issue when the people are much more on our side for this than they are for something like, say, Social Security privatization, which, you can discuss at a forum like this without controversy. As far as what we need to do, I mean, and again, this is where YWC comes in. I just truly believe that the critical battleground, if I had to pick one place, is the universities and the culture, and I can't think of a better target as far as taking back the culture than the universities. And as far as the states go and a populist approach, I mean, I think this is, and this fits in with a lot of the Tea Party rhetoric that's going right now, any attempts by the states to reclaim some of the authority to regulate immigration from the federal government, any attempts by the states and localities, I should say, should be welcomed. And that is one of the things, at a lower level, you actually have a better chance of making these things stick. As far as at the federal level goes, I just don't trust a lot of these guys who are campaigning against illegal immigration, because you see McCain and Graham and everything else, they're just lying to us. But if you see with the Arizona law and now these attempts in Mississippi and other states, I mean, that could potentially start an effect or just keep spreading to other states, regardless of what happens at the federal level.
This, if you look at, and you may be too young to understand all that can happen when a movement begins. You ask about the limit, what could populism do? What's the limit of Ronald Reagan? Ronald Reagan was delivered to office by a populist movement. The establishment was outraged over this guy, this kind of orange-haired B actor from Hollywood who thinks he's going to come back, and he didn't even wear the kind of suits. He wore plaid suits and things, not the blue ones and the dark ones and the red ties. I mean, that's what I would hear when I was working for him, How can you possibly expect this guy to get votes back here when he dresses like this? Well, they were clueless. The press, the media, the establishment of the Republican Party, the basic establishment is clueless to a grassroots uprising. Last year, and I was doing media so much, about a year ago, when the Tea Party things, before the Tea Party, it was the town hall meetings, the town hallers. And literally they'd say, this is all orchestrated, Bay, it's all orchestrated. And I'd say, you guys, you just keep believing that, okay? I mean, I'm watching it on my little, I figured my kids taught me YouTube, and I pressed the button one night and couldn't sleep. And I was like, this is amazing what's going on, because you just look at the faces of the people asking questions, and you know immediately they're talking from their heart, they're talking personal stories. There's nothing orchestrated about it. People came out of their homes. And look what it was, did we win on Obamacare? No, but the whole country knew about it. And look at the, I call him mayor, I guess now I gotta call you congressman, You're my mayor, though. I was always going to be my mayor, just as Governor Reagan was always my governor. So he had the boldness to step forward and do something that everyone else was talking about. What are we going to do? Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I don't know what to do. Look at all these people who are not speaking English in the neighborhood. And what did he do? He passed the law that was draconian. And 50 other cities said, hey, that's what we can do. And he emboldened them, and they became energized. We can do something. That's what has to spread across this country. Now it has begun. Arizona's governor today is suing the federal government. Amen to her. One signature on a bill that took her 5 too many days to figure out she should sign made her vice presidential material. She was down in the polls. She cleaned out the polls, and there was no opposition after that because she signed it. It emboldened her to see the reaction of the people, to see other people in the whole country praising her. And now she's much even stronger than she was then. We need people like that. One person can make a difference, as Lou here has shown. And so when you say, what are the limits? What are our limits? What are your limits? Because that's the limits. It's on what we can do. And if we don't take this country back, and if this Tea Party movement and this grassroots uprising across the country doesn't move forward with the kind of energy it did last year, and give us the kind of national leader to move into the White House where we can support that person,